Pondering time. Don't you think it's time to ponder? Pondering Time is the international online magazine that brings authors from all over the world and their stories really close to you. Take some time out for news from the editorial staff, impressive interviews, and exciting contributions from our authors. Ponder for yourself.
Hello, my dear friends out there. I'm Arthur from Pondering Time in Frankfurt, Germany. And I have a very special guest today in my house. His name is Harry Bielski. Harry is originally from Oregon, and he was deported from the United States to Germany in 2013 at the age of 61. Harry is ever since living in Frankfurt, in a suburb called Schwanheim, and I met him there, and I was absolutely fascinated by his story. I'm going to ask him today, how did it happen that somebody whose home is in Oregon, United States, was forced to come and live in Germany? Harry, welcome to Pondering Time. I'm glad to see you today. Welcome to my house. Tell me something, Harry. How did this happen? How did you feel when they told you you can't live anymore in America?
Well, I didn't have a choice. I guess I thought I was American all my life. You know, I went to school for 18 years, graduated high school, went to college even. I was a Cub Scout, a Boy Scout, and Explorer. I mean, every day in school, elementary school, we would recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. But I felt like there wasn't no liberty and justice. Liberty is freedom, and that was taken away from me.
And you can tell me, why was that? What actually happened?
Well, as I got older, I developed a drug problem, and I was arrested for that. I had possession of some pain pills, and I had two trials, and in the circuit court in the state of Oregon, I was found guilty. My punishment, my sentence was 10 days in jail. I served 5 days, was released, and I thought that was the end of it. And 3 years later, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the police for Homeland Security, picked me up and put me in an immigration detention center in Tacoma, Washington, where I stayed 590 days, almost 100 times longer than the time I served for my underlying crime. And he said, "You're not an American citizen, you're a native and a citizen of Germany." And they asked me that at my first court hearing, the judge, "Are you a native of Germany?" And a native is someone that lives like a Native American. Citizen, I didn't know. I really didn't know. I didn't know. I never naturalized. I was a legal permanent resident.
Now, that means that you came to America, you were not born in America. Is that correct?
That is correct.
How old were you when you came to America?
Our family left Germany in 1956 when I was 4 years old from Bremerhaven with an immigrant ship. I was a boat person. We emigrated to New York City, and then we got off the boat and went to Michigan right away, and my family stayed there and settled, and I lived in that area for 18 years, and then I went out to Portland, Oregon.
Do you remember anything of that, leaving Germany?
Mostly what my parents told me about the boat ride, 7 days over the water. They separated the husbands and wives, the men and the women, and the children stayed with the the mothers. In the lower compartment, it was a rough ride. But 4 years old, I really don't remember.
Okay, I understand that. That's
Yeah.
what I gathered.
Yeah.
Do you remember any time in your life speaking German?
Well, I grew up in a European-speaking household, German, but I guess at that time, looking back, I would be a heritage speaker, someone that spoke another language than the one from the country they come into. And so as I learned English, and my whole family wanted to be American and English, the German left me. But I had an older brother that was several years older. He kept the German.
Your mom, what language she spoke to you, your mom?
Depends if she was mad at me. German and English.
Well,
So the food items, the cooking, the manners, Hart's shut up. But she was gentle with us. And so some basic German, which is helped me a little bit when I came back here.
let me ask you this: that must be hard on you. You were 61, right, when you came?
I turned 61 a week after I came here, which was February 29th of 2013.
Okay, and so you had never been back here in Germany since you were 4 years old. Your life, your custom were all American. How was it when you got off the plane here?
It was probably like it is for the rest of us that come here and that came before me. There's so many. It was like Twilight Zone. I didn't speak the language. I speak better now. I went to German classes. Different culture. The Frankfurt Airport is it's an international hub for Europe. It's big. And the police were waiting for me, the federal police. And we went to the police station at the airport, and he checked my criminal record, and I had no crimes in Germany, and he said, "You are free to go." But at that point, I thought, where? I don't speak the language, I don't know anybody. Yeah.
What did you do then when he said you're free to go?
Well,
Did you have any money?
I had 58 American dollars. I went to a Risa Bank, a travel transfer bank at the airport, and I think I got 34 euros. And then I asked the police actually is there a Christian organization here that could help me out? And he sent me to the Traveler's Aid at the airport. And at the airport, at the Traveler's Aid, the office, I had to wait till they opened at 8 o'clock. I arrived at 5 in the morning. There was, nothing was open. But when the office opened, I don't think the woman there, she's greeted many of us, but not all of us. Some come here and we come at different hours.
Now, did they resolve your situation of finding a place to stay and food and some money or something during that same day? What did they do with you in the morning when they came and so?
Well, if we're lucky, the German consulate will notify these people, and there's a social worker with a group called the Frankfurter Verein in this organization, and they have different houses throughout Frankfurt for the homeless, the street people, the Germans that are basically can't take care of themselves. And so there was some place available for me when I got here. I didn't know that. And the people at the Traveler's Aid contacted this organization, and they had a room waiting for me, luckily.
That same day?
Yeah, and I initially asked, the woman said, "Do you want us to contact your family in Germany?" And I guess I was ashamed. I said no, because I didn't want to be put on their shoulders. I have a brother in Freiburg now. We still don't have any contact, but I have a nephew in Schwetzingen, and I got to meet him for the first time in 18 years last summer. And we went to his house when I was there for
Did he meet you in America before? You said 18 years. You had met him before.
He came, his family, my nephew and his father and my nephew's wife and my brother's wife, that's his father. He came for the wedding of my niece, Jennifer, in Michigan. And that was 18, 19 years ago. And that was the last time I saw them before I saw my nephew, last summer in 2000.
You're here now for how many years? It's 5
I
years,
just celebrated
right?
my happy return to Germany 6th year anniversary.
6 years anniversary.
Yeah.
Have you been able to pick up some German, or you still communicate
I'm
mostly in
missing,
English?
I'm little, or Munchmal, mostly. I have so many English-speaking contacts, friends here through my church, is English-speaking church. Frankfurt is very multicultural. 170 languages are spoken here, and English seems to be the second language. And that's from people around the world, you know, Africans, countries speak English. So I went to German classes. I got as far as, I'm at a low to intermediate level of German. I have a certificate, a B2.
Okay. Did you ever have to stay on the street one night, or did you ever go without food since you came here?
Well, when we came here, most of us come here with very little, nothing. Until you get into the system, until you get you're qualified for the social help. Because we are German, you're guaranteed a place to stay, and you're given an allowance, a living allowance of, it's called Hartz-IV, Hartz-IV, the program, and it's 425 currently, which I'm still receiving mostly, and that's. But it takes a while to get the system. They have to get a birth certificate for you to see you're German born, the government. And then once you get it, you qualify for assistance. And I was hungry at first.
But you never had a day without a meal?
No. And there were soup kitchens, the churches have so many of them, and they pick up the slack. And I still go to the soup kitchens. I like the company, the social workers, and the religious volunteers, and I help serve some of the meals. I'm a volunteer there.
So you're active, but you don't have any kind of a work that you follow steady on, some kind of a work track. Do you have that?
Well, I'm in retirement.
Okay, that makes sense because of your age, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you miss the most? Or you miss anything
about
at all?
America?
Are you homesick?
Home is a strong word. This is my new home. I thought when I came here I'll never see the mountains in the West Coast again. I was a fire bus driver. I was subcontracted to the government. I'll never see the Pacific Ocean, at least that side of it on the West Coast, because I've been forbidden from ever coming back. I have the permanent re-entry bar, but I'm not sure.
That means you can never go back to America.
That's the way that the law was written. I had on my paper, I actually brought the paper, warning to alien, ordered, removed, or deported. It has the different bands from the period of 5 years from the date of your departure, and I go down to the bottom to the worst one. The longest one is I cannot go back at any time because I've been found inadmissible or excludable under section so-and-so of the Immigration Act and deported. And should I attempt to come back, it would be illegal entry, and this paper has told me I may face a $250,000 fine or 10 years in prison.
And that was for one offense of drunk driving?
It was for possession of narcotics, of painkillers, possession for delivery, which is considered, in the state of Oregon, it's not a aggravated felony, but because it went to the federal immigration court level, An aggravated felony. It's considered a trafficking crime. It's the worst level that you could be at. It's usually the Immigration Act was passed to get rid of the worst offenders, criminal offenders.
So it's a drug offense.
It's a drug offense.
Okay.
And that means mandatory detention when they pick you up and automatic removal.
Okay. You have family back in America?
I have one sibling left in my immediate family. Her name's Susan. She's in a group home currently. Actually, she's in an institution. It used to be the county hospital. Now it's a mental health treatment center. And she has some mental health problems. She's schizophrenic. She was diagnosed at 18. I'm barely in contact with her because her condition, honestly, it's getting worse. It's worsening.
No other family members in America?
I have...
No children, no wife?
Well, I had a partner, Susan. We lived together 20 years right up until my removal. I think being banished and separated from her was too much. I was the breadwinner, basically, and paid the bills, paid our rent. Didn't miss a monthly rent payment for 20 years. I was never late. And me getting removed I'm taking it, I'm not walking away from you, I'm being taken away.
So you didn't evade that responsibility of a partnership. You were forced to, by coming here to Germany, and she can't come here, right, and live with you.
Well, she could. It's the cost, the airfare. But for her to come live here with me would be like she was being deported, removed from her family. She's a very nurturing mother and grandmother. We don't talk too much because it's just the strain.
Okay. You have all your life. Have you paid Social Security in there?
I worked most of my life. I wasn't a nose to the grindstone worker, but I worked steadily as a bus driver. I actually worked for General Motors. I was an auto worker, Chevrolet in Saginaw, Michigan, nodular iron factory. I was an inspector, a laborer, and an iron pour. But after 4 years, I thought this was not for me, and I went to Oregon and became a bus driver for school children, and then city tours for Portland, and that worked out I became a fire bus driver for the Forest Service. And I worked for years, and I paid my taxes for Social Security benefits when I got older, old age benefits. And currently I'm in litigation. I have a legal team working with me in Frankfurt, and we're going to contact, we haven't got through on the conference call yet. And next week we have a meeting, Tuesday, to see what's going to happen, because they sent me in my bank account my Social Security benefits for the last 6 months when I opened the claim, and I was told later, I got a pamphlet in the mail from the Social Security Administration, that your benefits may be stopped.
How many years are we talking about? How many years of Social Security did you pay in? How many years did you work?
I started working when I was 16 or 17 for my aunt. Her family sponsored us to come to America, and I worked until a few years until before I left.
How many years are that you paid in, approximately?
50, 18 until I was 50, 35 to 40 years, something.
That's a lot of money you paid in.
The money, I can tell you the money that I was getting for a short time is and I just had a cost of living increase, $958 a month, American dollars, into my bank account. And I'm receiving social help before that, which is my apartment's provided for, given to me, and my health insurance from AOK.
That's in Germany, here in Germany. But in America, how much would you get in America if they would have to pay you? a month? How many dollars?
If I was there, or if you let me have it here, it'd be $958 is the current amount.
Which would be much better than what you're getting right now here in Germany, right?
Well, it's actually a little bit less because my apartment is my Wohnung is 379
Euros.
euros. Well, but the euro is a little bit more.
Stronger than the dollar.
Yeah, and my health insurance is 220, but that was all paid for before. And then the cost of living allowance is about 420, so that works out to 1,000. So it's a little bit more, especially with the euro. And so if I expected maybe my benefits would be stopped. He said the government, the Social Security, that because I was deported, you cannot collect benefits overseas unless you can come back to America with legal permanent resident status.
Okay, let me ask you this. You said now before during this interview that there are so many of us. What are you referring to? So many others that have been deported?
There are currently, and this might not be an exact figure, 12 million undocumented American residents. You would call them, I wouldn't call them, but illegal aliens. And there are an equal number of legal permanent residents with the green cards.
But the ones you're referring to that have been deported, I mean, are you talking about people that have been deported to Germany? You know any of those, and how many are those approximately?
I know many, because we continue to be removed from America. A few years ago, I did a story, and for the Journal Frankfurt, and
The Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung,
that's
right?
another story.
Yes.
But this is a magazine, the Frankfurt Journal Frankfurt.
Okay.
And the reporter, Gerald Schaefer, contacted Homeland Security, and we got the exact figures of the men and women that were removed to Germany every year. That year, I think the article came out in 2015, 200 of us meaning the deportees, the Germans that thought they were Americans.
200?
200. And every year it's a different figure because you can't put an exact timetable on your removal.
So every year there come more to this number.
And the ones that come, some of them are married to American citizens. They have American citizen children. Some of the men served in the military. They were ready to fight and die for America. And then they got deported for various crimes in their past.
They served in the military, you said, but they have never become citizens, right?
One or two were promised that they would get the green cards were taken from them by their superiors, and they said it would be taken care of you. My brother, George Jurgen, who died 4 months after I came here, he was a Vietnam veteran. He naturalized between tours of duty, and he took care of business.
Okay, so he took care of it. I guess one of the things that was the drawback for you was that you had never left America during those 57 years, right?
Well, I've been to Canada and some border towns in Mexico.
Where you did not need a passport.
Correct.
That's probably, if you were forced to apply for a passport, for example, then what would have you done? Because you never had a German passport, right? Until you were deported.
I never had an international passport.
You never had a passport in your life after
No.
you came to America.
I think when I was in Michigan, you didn't need a passport. You could just use your driver's license.
To go to?
Canada, Toronto, Montreal.
Or
across
to Mexico.
the border. And Mexico.
Okay.
And I remember one time, was I coming back from Canada? I was a little nervous. The man said, the customs man said, citizen of which country? And I said, Michigan, which is not a country, it's a state.
Yeah, this guy probably thought that you were funny. Yeah. Let me ask you something. How about the customs and the food in Germany? How did you adapt to that?
It was an easy adaptation because my mother used to cook many of the dishes that I enjoy now. The Spätzle, the Rotkohl, the Sauerbraten, and I come from Baden-Württemberg, and so these are native dishes from that Bundesland, from that state. But to go into a store and buy them packaged already is a little bit different. And there's American food here. Maybe it's not the same. One of the deportees, he still hasn't adapted. He's from Pennsylvania. He said, the McDonald's here the burgers don't taste American enough. Well, you're not in America. And
Sure. But you adapted to it. For you, there's nothing missing, or once in a while you crave something.
well, if I want a cheeseburger, I would go to McDonald's, but it's if I really want something, I have friends that go back to America and they say, what can I bring you back? So they'll smuggle me back.
What would that be?
Triscuit crackers I like Kraft macaroni and cheese. The beer is good here. I
Yeah.
love it.
Okay.
Got to drink not too much of it. And and so I'm discovering new things too. Traveling.
Not being able to go back, how hard does that get you? I mean, does that make you sad sometimes? Do you wish you could go back, or at least one time, or if you had an opportunity, would you go back forever? What do you think the future, how it's going to keep affecting you?
If it's a big if, and when I could go back, I don't want to live there in America anymore. I had 57 years in that wonderful country, and that's enough. I would like to visit.
Okay, my friend. I understand.
Yes.
So I gather there's a little bit of homesickness there.
Well, it's, when you live somewhere that long, you feel attached to the land, to the people who are wonderful, and the government's a different matter.
Yeah, I can understand. Can I give you something to wipe your...
Yeah, just
Please.
thought I shed enough tears.
I have a lot of empathy for that situation, my dear. You know, we have just met recently. I have spent many years of myself in America, and I have today a different attitude on things like that. So I want to, as a German citizen, I want to say that you are always welcome to come and see me. Dear Pondering Time friends, Harry Bielski has very quickly become a friend, and you can see he has become very emotional at that moment. I feel a lot for him because I think you're a good man, Harry, and you have told me your story, and I think it's inherently unjust to deport somebody in these circumstances, because I don't consider that you are a drug dealer. A drug dealer is somebody that gets up every day in the morning, he stuffs his American merchandise, and he goes out and he keeps selling it. You told me in a moment of intimacy that you did have, because of an injury before, you had some medication problems, and you got sort of addicted to these medications. So we're not talking about cocaine and marijuana and stuff like that. We're talking about pharmaceutical medication, right? And that is what got you in that situation. I'm not to judge. I want to thank you that you have come for this interview. And is there anything you want to say to our viewers here from Pondering Time, especially in America?
Well, Pondering Time viewers, listeners, and readers, when something is taken away from you, if you're lucky, it's replaced with something else that sometimes is better. And if you learn from your mistakes and you correct yourself, and you are truly repentant, I think this is grace. This is what grace is about. and grace will carry you through. In America, I'd like to say hi to my niece, Jennifer, who calls me her dearly deported uncle. And in Oregon, Terry Layler, thank you for the t-shirt. From Portland Timbers, the year they won the national, the North American Soccer League Championship, but it's not like soccer here, we're the real thing, you know, Frankfurt team and München. And maybe someday I will legally be allowed to come back to America. It will probably not look the same to me after being gone 6-7 years, but I'm in touch on Facebook and Messenger, and but hey, some of you can always come to Frankfurt and visit, and the world has opened up to me. You know, I cannot go back to America, but I live in a continent, in the European Union. We have 27 countries here that are part of the European Union. We don't need passports as German citizens to go to them. I've been to Paris, and I stayed in Amsterdam for a few days. Coming up, hopefully, is Krakow, Poland, and Prague, Czechoslovakia. And I love it here. It's a new life for me. You know, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, but my new German saying is when life gives you apples, make apple wine. But don't drink too much of it at one time.
Okay, Harry, I thank you very much
Okay,
for coming, and be assured that you have a friend here in Germany anytime to be there for you. Thank you, dear Pondering Time fans. Remember one thing, there's always a moment to ponder.
This was Pondering Time. Let us give you a little more food of thought. Visit us at www.ponderingtime.net.